Hi and welcome back to another Take Me Higher chat. I'm Justin Meredith.
And I'm Ash Simmons.
Before we get started, we are going to talk about community today, something that is very close to both mine and Ash's heart. But if you get a chance, please like, follow, subscribe, just generally share our stuff as far and wide as you can if you're interested in it, because it actually spreads our message of positivity, which is something that we're desperately trying to do to put a dent in the world.
Like I said, just community. I mean, everyone is part of a community. It can be your immediate community, and just you broaden it out to Australia, statewide, Australia-wide, maybe even the world. I'd argue that there is a worldwide community, and many different within that, which makes it also challenging to see where you fit in. How many do you fit in? Do they bleed over within each other? So it's an interesting thought straight away for me, and I think this might be a long one.
I think it could be a long one as well, because I think you ignore community at your own detriment as well. Like you said, there's so many communities to plug into. The world is full of so many people with such variety that if you start to alienate yourself from it, that's when you start to see things like loneliness creeping in. That's
right. And we've talked about that in previous iterations of Take Me Higher. Loneliness. It is a huge problem worldwide. And very interestingly, you just cued me by saying plug into communities. I think there's a huge spot to talk about digital communities within that. The way that communities and relationships are being built these days with social media, with all sorts of, I'm not too digitally savvy, but social media is the easy one. And even basic relationships through online platforms and dating and those sort of things, which therefore go and continue to build your own personal community and then extrapolate that out. So it's really interesting just having to cue my thought with plug in.
Yeah, so true. And I hadn't even given it that much thought in myself. But, I think, like I say, I will make the point that there are multiple communities, quirks, kinks, whatever people are. But there is a world out there to get involved in, and I actively, seriously encourage as much community as you can. My community, my first experience of community. I grew up in South Wales, although you wouldn't tell by my accent. I grew up in South Wales in a beautiful little coastal village called Sully. And had a church, had a scout group, and various other things, and we all went to the same local school, and parents got on well. And I hadn't realised until I was older how important that community was in shaping me as the person I am today. I had friends who were teachers, builders, various other jobs, and Dad was great at working on people's cars, and it was almost an idyllic situation. Dad would be servicing somebody's car, somebody would be helping somebody build a brick wall outside their house, and I felt part of something.
I think that's interesting. And what I heard then was that it also taught you a lot of things: work ethic, value of friendships, the bartering type systems, all those things that are relevant to society. And my upbringing was very, very similar. Small town in Adelaide, Australia, probably similar to yours, although it was on the other side of the world, just a small community. I grew up in a surf club. That is its own community, and it was built on sort of the values of service and community service, more importantly. And then sort of my athletic background within like Ironman racing and swimming, like another two separate communities that bleed over into each other, and taught me the value of hard work and camaraderie and all those sort of things. So each community that you have, once you identify them, you can take little bits from each one and bring them in. And all right, now I value the giving or the being of service to people. I value the hard work and what I can get from that, and even the lessons that you learn from failing after the hard work, all because of community. I think we both do, just by doing this, show the value of how much we value community and what we want to give back to. And it is very much the world according to us. But I think we're doing that for the right reasons, yeah?
Yeah, totally agree. And I think when you look at WeRise Collective, the idea of that in its very nature is bringing people together, creating a community of its very own. In fact, now we're doing this. I'm surprised you didn't bloody start with it as a video. But sorry.
Yeah, and again, good point that I like. sort of that inclusive leadership. Every community has a leader, and if that's a sporting club, it's a coach or a president of a whatever organisation, that they're the leader, and it's up to them to include the members, and not so much in a business world, but that is also another community, but an inclusive person sort of builds that buy-in of its followers, and that encourages that community to grow and to prosper and to feel safe and be creative and remove the fear of loneliness and all those other things just by potentially one person. Like the classic saying or movie title, if you build it, they will come.
Yeah.
And I honestly believe that one person can make a difference within a community or a society or the world.
I think, like as you're saying it, and then this probably is going to be a long one based on a lot of this stuff as well, because we've talked about loyalty in a previous video, and you learn loyalty and you learn to see where there isn't loyalty in communities. Like people, true leaders and true helpers within communities stand out like a shining light, but it also shows you the people that aren't involved in the community. Like it's almost like a test bed for social dynamics. So in my 30s, I moved to London, and so coming from a small sort of Welsh town, Welsh village, going up to London, I saw a lack of community. Because don't get me wrong, there are communities within London, and it is a beautiful place. Once you stay there for a long time, you start to find your people, right?
Find your niche.
Exactly. But I was there by myself. I took a job. I was getting on the tube. I saw people kind of getting on and off, not speaking to each other. And that was where I probably felt my saddest, because I didn't have that sense of belonging.
Yeah. I
didn't feel like I was with my tribe, whether that was a jiu-jitsu community, a village community, or anything else. So I think, for me, it's vital. And then actually later on in my life, I actively seeked out a place to live where I could get into and become part of a community.
Which is a great point, that you actively sought and were responsible for your own journey, basically, to go, okay, well, I think I will fit in with these groups and these people that are around me in this location. So I'm actively going to search for a place to live there. That's probably quite an extreme measure to take for you to invest in yourself to become part of a community. A lot of people wouldn't move, but you could argue that a lot of times there's communities within wherever your location, your geographical location that you can plug into, but you actively sought a place to live because of that, which is, I think, again, a reflection on yourself to say, I want to be part of something and I want to give back and I want people to give to me and be that cohesive member of society.
Yeah.
Which leads me to my next point, that you look at natural disasters, I think, is a great petri dish to understand communities. And some years ago, even in this area, we had quite significant flooding.
Yeah.
And it's when you really see communities come together. Friendships are often born in hard situations. And this sort of area and suburb, you couldn't meet someone around here that doesn't go, oh, I met so-and-so through the floods. They helped me do this, or they moved my car, or they helped me evacuate my house, or brought sandbags, or cleaned out my business, or whatever that looks like.
Yeah.
People want to help. And in those scenarios and situations, you see the best in community. I think it's sad that it takes something so extreme to bring that out. Why can't people do that and invest in their community daily?
Yeah, look, and I think there's that definitely, and I think people get busy and they forget. But there's also community overplayed as well, which I think can be something maybe we come on to again, where people overplug in and they start to become a bit of a busybody, or, as the internet dubbed it, a Karen.
Yes.
But I agree, I think it is a pity that sometimes it does take that disaster. But you've got to remember, people like you and I are quite extroverted. And even if we're not always extroverted, we do look to try and engage with people. That's probably what brought us together in the first place. A lot of people are quite afraid to kind of go too far into things. They
take the leap.
Yeah, or they might have been burnt by somebody else because they did take a leap previously, and they ended up getting dragged into the church council and the scout group, and then before they know it, everyone's abandoned them and they're kind of running the show.
Yeah.
But yes, you're right. I think it can be a pity that people don't always just naturally. Kids are really good at it.
Yes.
I wish adults could be more like kids.
Yeah.
Like go up to people in the playground and before you know it, they're all just best mates.
Yeah. Well, and they don't have that, I guess, those experiences of social isolation or people sort of leaving you and hurting you. But that comes very quickly for children. And I think you sort of hit the nail on the head. People's personality types, introverted, extroverted, and introverted, extrovert, or vice versa. There's so many different dynamics there. So it can be quite challenging to walk in and go, hey, I want to be part of this community and very sort of forward-facing and proactive. We're not all like that.
No.
And that's absolutely fine. It'd be boring if everyone was the same. But I would offer the encouragement to find your tribe.
Definitely.
Like that could be, like I touched on earlier, it could be an online community, like a gaming community. There's so many things that like my son, he's got his own little gaming community. He's got his jiu-jitsu community, and he's got his friendship unit at school, and all these different communities. So there's no one set rule for everyone. Find what you're comfortable in, and you know what? It might not be your time to go, all right, I'm willing to step into this. There might be some things that you need to overcome first, and that's okay too. But I would definitely encourage you to try and seek out that social outlet and community vibe.
Totally. And I think, don't force it, right?
Yeah.
If, let it happen organically. I'm not saying be standoffish, but just gently tread in, make sure that you are with the right people, make sure that everything's kind of going, how you'd want it to in terms of like the dynamics, and then start to give yourself over, start to help other people. Because I think, we talk about loneliness a lot, and if the best way to get over loneliness is to actually help other people, to find a way to be of service. And the way to be of service is to be part of a community.
I'll ask you this question. We both have a close friend who has has lost his community, his safe zone. What advice would you give to someone that, whether that's through moving locations, whether that's through losing a friendship group for whatever reason, losing a relationship, what advice might you offer to somebody in that situation?
Put yourself out there. But, brilliant question. I actually think, before you do just put yourself out there and just everywhere, start to do the work on yourself.
Yeah, nice.
Start to find out who you are and what community you want to give to, right? Yeah. Because then you're doing things with purpose. I'm not saying, like we talked about surrender, but, be open to anything. But at the same time, don't force a round peg into a square hole. Be who you are. See where that lines up with the type of communities you could be part of, and then start to, but don't close yourself off.
Be open to any experience, and like you said, it's by taking the time for yourself, knowing yourself, that organic growth of community will come. You'll naturally go, oh well, I didn't know that about myself, or I'm learning, or I'm evolving, and maybe that leads me to go and join a book club, whatever it is, and like. For me, I'm flat out reading a book, but these days I really enjoy it. And joining a book club could be a good opportunity for me.
Yeah.
I don't know. But my point is, understand that you will change and you will leave some communities behind and then you will give to others. And you've done a really good job by being part of that. It's just that you've evolved as a person and it's time to move on. Maybe that fell apart or shut down, or just it was time for you to go somewhere else and give to something else.
Yeah, completely agree. You made a really good point probably at the top of this conversation where we were talking about global communities, right? And, like for us, we're relatively lucky. We're in a very nice sort of peninsula in the northern beaches of Brisbane. And, everyone kind of gets on. It's the end of the line, literally on the train line. So people kind of sort of come into an area and they stay. That's quite rare nowadays, but there is a global community. You might be into radio controlled cars. You might be into yogic practices, or cooking food. And
a great example is, and I'll ask you the question because I don't want to get the name wrong, but the group that meets down on the foreshore in the morning. 5 a.m. 5 a.m. club, or
5 a.m. club, or Dawn Patrol.
Something that was created out of nothing. And they have built an amazing community that is not only there to train in the morning, and I believe it's just men.
I think you're right.
Yeah, I don't want to talk out of shop, but like they're there to support each other through life, through experiences, through natural disasters like we talked about. They go around and help each other renovate each other's houses, and as well as just shoot the shit. They're just a group of people that have built a community out of nothing to support each other.
Training on a beach.
Like, isn't that, I look at that as inspirational.
Yeah.
Just to do good within your community. I don't think anything beats that.
No, I think you're right. I think you're right. Beautiful conversation. Didn't think we didn't even look at this one as an option, but it actually turned out to be one of my favorite conversations.
Yeah, and we're preaching kind of doing good. And I think if you're part of your community and contributing to it, then you're doing that. You're making yourself, your family, your community, your world. We always want to make a dent in the world. You're making it a better place.
Absolutely.
Go out and do it.
And look, final thought from me, never be too busy to do it, right? You know, we all get caught up in our own worlds, you know, it's easy. I'm doing it myself at the moment, but the power of now, stop, have a conversation. You just don't know if you're going to meet your next best friend or someone who needs some help.
This is the dynamic. We were in a community, we never knew each other, and now here we are.
Yeah.
Take the risk. Go and build a community.
Beautiful.
Nice.